now back to the last section of ASEAN Business Report. Now let's watch the CEO Talk section by Nophakhun Limsamarnphan, our editor, on the aftermath of the flooding and how we're going to tackle that.
So the Mr. Andrew Durieux, the Managing Director of Coverage Limited. Good Andrew, Sawadi. Welcome to the program.
Sawadi Kap. Thank you.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good Andrew, you are an expert on software outsourcing and business continuity. Today, we need your advice on how Thai business and industry should be coping with the consequences of the massive flooding in Thailand. Actually, it's the worst in more than 5 decades. Please.
Yes. The first thing I would like to say is that I do think and believe that Thailand manages floods exceptionally well. The monkey cheek system that was developed many years ago handles the normal volume of water exceptionally well, better than most countries. This year, however, 3 typhoons in a very short space of time during the monsoon season has created a very large volume of water in the north. And unfortunately, the only path for that water to flow is down through the central plains, through Bangkok, out to the ocean. And so that's now affected many, many factories and businesses, the subject of your program, and is going to cause quite a big economic...
We are talking about a massive amount of water. To put into perspective, they're talking about almost 20,000 million cubic meters. That's gigantic. So that we learned that 6-7 industrial estates in Ayutthaya province, in Pathum Thani, now under the water, and at least 1,000 factories out of operation. Is compared to other disasters in the world, how Thailand is. What Thailand is facing now?
Well, certainly we know that there are 1,000 or more factories underwater now. Some reports are saying that there might be up to 14,000 that are affected in a supply chain sense for this. I personally can't think of another disaster that's hit the world in the recent years where 14,000 factories have been affected at the same time.
And in general, given your expertise on business continuity, business recovery planning, what is your advice then?
Yeah, I think that for a business owner or manager right now, certainly they can be doing things right now. There'll be some that aren't underwater yet, some that are already underwater, and there'll be differences within them. But I certainly think all companies and businesses can start planning now. I would normally teach a process, or I advise my customers in Thailand that they should be getting organised now. They should be putting in place a management team with one person responsible, broken down into 2 levels, strategy and tactical. Once they get organised, then they should be making plans now. And those plans will include assessing the damages, looking at the options, and then putting in place documented plans and communicating those. Third, once they have a plan, they should be then going and securing the resources. This is going to be critical right now. If you can book in your cleaning services, or you'll start to order your equipment that you know is damaged, start to mobilise the funds that you may need to do this, talk to your insurance companies. The faster you can do that, the faster you'll be able to recover. Then you have to implement your plans. For that, you'll need people. For that, you need normal management. But critically, in a flood where lots of other people are affected, you'll have to be very flexible in your plans and able to change them quickly. And then after everything's done, you really do want to undertake a review of the whole process so that you can prepare better in the future. And hopefully you'll have recovered quickly enough. In my experience with companies that I've managed through crises, in one case, we recovered in 18 hours, where our 2 biggest competitors in a logistics transport sense took more than 1 month, or sorry, took more than 1 week to recover. Coca-Cola in Australia walked up to my company after the crisis and gave us the delivery contract for Coca-Cola for the whole of Australia, only because we were able to recover in 18 hours. So there's actually customer or positive opportunities here for the companies that move early and do a good job.
So the speed is very important. I understand that you also work for the Western Digital, which is one of the world's biggest maker of hard disk drive, and even Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple Inc., said supply of the hard disk drive will be affected because of flooding in Thailand. So what's your advice for Western Digital?
Western Digital, I know, already have a good business continuity plan in place. They're in the unfortunate case of having two factories here underwater and Bang Pa-in.
And Bang Pa-in.
Yes, I believe, yes. They have many workers who now kind of...
30,000 in Thailand. Please.
The good news for them is that they actually have another factory in Malaysia, just below Kuala Lumpur, and they have the ability to increase the production down there. So they're one of the fortunate companies that can actually temporarily move some of their operations while they do a recovery process here. I do think this will have an impact on probably the price of hard disks and therefore some hardware over the next 1 to 2 years, because I don't think that Western Digital can catch up the amount of deliveries or customer orders.
So in this case, you're saying that some companies like Western Digital has an option to move the production, in this case, outside of Thailand to Malaysia, at least to minimize the damage from the supply disruption?
Yes, I've already spoken to a number of other factories in the same position.
Yes.
Even some of the automotive industry in Thailand, which is very critical to the economy. Toyota are in almost a crazy situation where they have 2 or 3 factories that aren't anywhere near the water.
In Rayong province, not affected.
Correct, and yet those factories have to close down. That highlights the global importance of supply chains.
Yes.
Many of their component suppliers work in high-tech industry or Bang Pa-in industrial zone or Ayutthaya, and now those factories are shut down. So Toyota can't, for example, get some critical pieces of the cars, and therefore they have to stop the whole assembly process.
I see. What are the options for Toyota then, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that companies very much need to be aware of, because for Toyota, if I use an example of Honda, Honda's capacity in Thailand is something like 240,000 vehicles, but their capacity in Malaysia, which they could move to, is only 40,000.
Very small.
Yes, so they could temporarily meet some orders from a Malaysia operation, but their factories in Thailand will need to go to start looking for other parts suppliers.
I see.
These floods may take a week to drain, or they may take a month or more to drain. Then we have to go through the whole recovery process, which could take some companies between 3 and maybe 6 months. Those big factories that are producing automotive cars in Rayong will need to start looking for other suppliers.
I see.
That's where it's very critical, if you're a business that's been affected, to start acting quickly, to start talking to your customers, because you don't want those people to go and make long-term contracts with your competitors.
I see. And what about other companies, smaller one and have less or no options? What's your advice then?
Yeah, that's a sort of 5-step plan that I just outlined for those companies. They may have just 1 factory or 2 factories, both within the flood zone.
Yes.
Their workers may not be able to get in there now. Their management, they may have no communications or electricity at all. So those companies really do need to be very focused on communication, planning now, securing the cleanup resources now. Probably they need to go and set up some sort of temporary site if possible.
Yes.
Some Thai companies will be able to do that. They'll have the right connections and the right knowledge. They'll be able to secure other locations. I do note that in the newspapers today, there was already talk of spare warehouses increasing in price.
Yes.
But some companies could run a management function, say, out of a hotel. And I already know some companies running out of hotels today. So there are things that those companies can do to at least take some of the steps now, so that when the water goes, they can quickly move in.
Even though that's the end of the show, the danger has not subsided. I'll repeat here the risk areas that Bangkok Governor Sukhumpan Baripat has said earlier. So if you're in this area, you have to stay vigilant and be in contact with updates. มีนบุรี คลองสามวา ลาดกระบัง ดอนเมือง หลักสี่ คณะยาว สายไหม And also the water could be contaminated. So if you have to go in the water, try to protect yourself as much as you can.
That's right. And it's important now that people stay focused, don't panic, stay ahead of the situation and do the best we can to minimize the damage that has already been done in many areas. So definitely, we are still here on the watch for all of you in English language with ASEAN Business Report. If you need to stay focused on the situation, we still have our news program, ASEAN Newsroom at 9 p.m. tonight. Well, for Friday update and wrap up.
Yes.
For sure. And that's all the time for ASEAN Business Report for today and for this week. You can stay with us from Monday to Friday, every weekday on ASEAN TV.
And you can also give us your feedbacks and comments on our Facebook page, worldweb.facebook.com/ASEAN Business Report, or our Twitter at ASEAN Biz Report. This is Nophakhun Limsamarnphan.
And this is Ong Anand Amataya Kun. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ